What if I told you that the very system designed to help you grow your money is quietly working against you? Every single day, millions of Americans hand over their hard-earned cash to something they barely understand, and the financial industry is counting on that confusion to keep making billions. Today, we're going to rip that curtain wide open. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what funds are, how they work, and most importantly, how to stop being the person who gets taken advantage of and start being the person who actually builds wealth. So if you've ever felt lost when someone says just invest in a fund, stay right here because this video is going to change everything. Number 1, what exactly is a fund and why should you care? Let's start with the basics because here's the thing. Most people use the word fund without actually knowing what it means, and that ignorance is costing them thousands of dollars every year. A fund, at its core, is simply a pool of money collected from a group of investors and used to buy a collection of assets, things like stocks, bonds, or real estate. Think of it like a group road trip. Instead of one person paying for the entire car, the gas, the hotel, and the food, everyone chips in, and you all benefit from the journey together. That's a fund. Now here's why this matters for you specifically. The average American who invests alone, picking random stocks on an app, has a return rate that is dramatically lower than someone who simply puts money into a well-managed fund. The data doesn't lie. And yet, most people never learn this in school, never hear it from their parents, and definitely don't hear it from the banks that profit off your confusion. So the first thing you need to understand is this. Funds exist to give everyday people access to investment strategies that used to be reserved only for the ultra-rich. Number 2, the different types of funds and which one is actually for you. Here's where it gets interesting and a little overwhelming because not all funds are created equal. There are mutual funds, index funds, ETFs, hedge funds, money market funds, and the list goes on. But let me break it down in a way that actually makes sense. Mutual funds are the classic option. A professional fund manager picks the investments, and you pay them a fee for that service. Sounds great, right? Here's the catch. Study after study has shown that most actively managed mutual funds fail to beat the market over a 10-year period. You're paying someone for expertise they often can't deliver. Then there are index funds, and this is where things get really exciting. An index fund simply tracks a market index like the S&P 500, which includes the 500 biggest companies in America. No fancy manager, no high fees, just steady, consistent growth. Warren Buffett himself, one of the greatest investors alive, has publicly said that most people should just put their money in an S&P 500 index fund and leave it alone. And then there are ETFs, or exchange-traded funds, which are basically index funds that you can buy and sell throughout the day like a stock. They're flexible, low cost, and incredibly popular with younger investors. The bottom line? If you're just starting out, index funds and ETFs are where you should be looking, not the high-fee, actively managed funds that Wall Street keeps pushing on you. Number 3, the hidden costs that are silently draining your returns. All right, this is the section that is going to make some of you genuinely angry, and it should. Because here's something the financial industry does not want you to know. Every fund charges something called an expense ratio, a small percentage fee taken out of your investment every single year. Now, 1% doesn't sound like a lot, does it? But let's run the numbers. If you invest $10,000 and your fund grows at 7% annually after 30 years with a 0.1% expense ratio, which is typical for a good index fund, you'd end up with around $74,000. But if that fund charges 1% instead, you'd end up with only about $57,000. That's a $17,000 difference, taken right out of your pocket, just from a small fee you probably didn't even notice. And some actively managed mutual funds charge 1.5%, even 2%, over a lifetime of investing. That is hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost wealth. This is not an accident. This is by design. So the next time someone recommends a fund to you, the first question out of your mouth should always be, what is the expense ratio? Number 4, how to actually start investing in funds, step by step. Okay. So now you know what funds are, which types exist, and what hidden fees to watch out for. But knowing all of this means nothing if you don't take action. So let's talk about exactly how you get started. No jargon, no fluff. Step 1 is to open a brokerage account. Platforms like Fidelity, Vanguard, or Schwab are all solid, trusted options. If your employer offers a 401k with a company match, start there. That match is literally free money, and you should never leave it on the table. Step 2 is to decide on your strategy. Are you young and have decades ahead of you? Then you can afford to be aggressive. Put a higher percentage into stock-based index funds. Are you closer to retirement? You'll want to shift toward more stable, bond-heavy funds. Step 3, and this is the one most people skip, is to automate your contributions. Set up automatic monthly transfers into your chosen fund. The secret to building wealth isn't being a genius. It's being consistent. When you automate, you remove emotion from the equation, and emotion is the #1 reason most investors fail. They panic when markets drop, they sell at the wrong time, and they lock in losses they never had to take. Number 5, the mindset shift that separates wealthy people from everyone else. Here's the final piece of the puzzle, and honestly, it might be the most important thing in this entire video. The reason most Americans never build serious wealth isn't because they don't make enough money. It's because of how they think about money. Wealthy people understand something that most people don't. Money is a tool, and funds are one of the most powerful tools you have access to. When a wealthy person earns $1, they immediately ask, how can this dollar work for me while I sleep? But the average person asks, what can I buy with this dollar today? That shift in thinking, from spending to growing, is what separates people who end up comfortable in retirement from people who are working into their 70s just to survive. Investing in funds is not complicated. It is not just for rich people, and it does not require you to watch stock prices every day. It requires patience, consistency, and the discipline to leave your money alone long enough for compounding to do its magic. Albert Einstein reportedly called compound interest the 8th wonder of the world. And when you look at what a simple index fund can do to your money over 20 or 30 years, it's hard to disagree. So here's your challenge for this week. Look up the expense ratio of any fund you're currently invested in, or research one index fund that aligns with your goals. Just one step. That's all it takes to start. If this video helped you, hit that like button and subscribe, because we break down complex financial topics like this every single week in plain English. Drop a comment below. What's the biggest money question you want answered next? I'll see you in the next one.